to the Hangover with Cosmos. With Cosmos, where we just shoot the shit, basically, and have no direction, no game plan, and all that good stuff. I don't know if
you are back. So Ron says we're back, but this isn't updating.
Okay, so all right, we'll rely on looking at just the stream image for that chat. It says that it wasn't able to connect, but that's okay. Hey everyone out there, TV land, remember like Nick at Night?
Okay.
Anyway, so when I think about TV land, it's like Nick at Night and the good.
Isn't there like a channel called TV Land?
I think there might be a TV Land
that
channel.
Shows like all
but I think stuff. But I think now, instead of it being like I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie and like what Green Gables or whatever. She says we're back. It's now like I think
Green
like
Acres.
Green Acres.
But there's like a Gables. Oh, is that like one of the
Anne of Green Gables? That's what I was mixing with. Green Acres or Bewitched. It's now I think like Roseanne and like not the new Roseanne, but like the older, like the original Roseanne and like.
Well, now like it's called the Connors because they ditched Roseanne.
But because she's nutty. But it's like now just like more thing that I would consider more modern shows, but I guess now they're the same probably time frame as like Bewitched was to me as a child.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Yeah, like they're now that vintage. It's like
vintage TV. So you're old.
Yeah, like what was it on, guys? It was the Friday nights thing. Oh, TGIF, and he had God, what was on TGIF? It was you had Mr. Cooper was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't remember the other TGIF shows.
Yeah.
But I think those ones are now on whatever the TGIF shows were now on.
TV Land.
Mm-hmm. And then there's Nickelodeon when Snick on Nickelodeon, and it was Roundhouse, Are You Afraid of the Dark, all that, and stuff. And I found Are You Afraid of the Dark on it was on some streaming platform that Are You Afraid of the Dark is on, and I gotta watch some of those episodes just to see, because there was one episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, it was the Zebo the Clown episode, that I remember actually scaring kind of like the crap out of me. Oh, Ron says Full House, Family Ties. Okay, yeah. God, Full House
on TV Land.
Oh man, gosh,
time.
I'm so old. What happens to like the I Love Lucy's? And
they're still there.
Bewitched.
They're all still there.
Can't wait for when it's like when all the Gen Z TV shows are now on the, like, you know, the TV lands. It'll be like what the God, I don't know any of the shows. Vampire Diaries. I don't.
I mean, we just stream our TV. We don't have like actual.
Yeah, I know we don't have cable. We just have streaming. We just have various streaming platforms, which are all kind of combining to try and make it in one thing. And I'm like, guys, this is just what cable was.
Yeah.
Why are we like, the whole point of streaming was to have these different avenues of.
But it might be cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, just go back to cable. But then
Yeah. Because I mean, we're paying for all these different things,
mm-hmm.
all these streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up being the same cost as like cable, but
yeah, but then things are like, you can watch it when you watch it instead of waiting for
mm-hmm.
like 6 p.m. on a Thursday night or something and trying to see like, oh no, do I have anything
right? But your parents
that I'm doing?
Your parents just record all that stuff. But then you have to
well, now you can record it, but back in the day you couldn't record it.
Yeah.
It was either you were there to watch it or you missed it and had to wait for like the rerun to pop up.
That's why was it TiVo?
Whenever
oh
God, I remember when TiVo came out. This is the nostalgia episode of Hangover with Hangover. I remember when TiVo came out. I was working at CompUSA in Pleasanton, California. And TiVo was like the new thing.
Yeah, but then cable was like, oh, we got to compete with that.
Yeah, so then cable companies came out with their own DVR abilities. You know,
where you could like
which my dad uses for On Patrol Live. Yeah, Ron says, "Hell yeah, Liz, let's get old." Woo!
Wait, who said that?
Ron said that.
Oh yeah. Wow, welcome to the club.
Getting all time. Check out our episode on time, everybody, and how it passes, and that it's a weird thing.
Time is a very weird thing.
Time is. It is. You know, I think Doctor Who was very apt for the wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff because it is very wibbly wobbly. Time. Even though you think it's in a straight arrow, in a straight line, but you know it's really, it is weird when you.
Yeah, it's and it doesn't flow the same for everybody. Though it all seems to flow in the same direction, it doesn't flow at the same rate.
But then I think and then for us humans, like we take time and then we add this aspect of nostalgia to it where then we want to relive different time. Like if you look at fashion trends and how fashion trends, like there's some new stuff, but then there's also majority of fashion trends end up reverting back to previous fashion trends or are like slightly altered versions of a previous fashion trend.
Yeah, well, we forget the bullshit of the earlier time.
Yeah, well, we look at images. People, we can look at what the 1990s look like. Why are we bringing some of that back? We can see the pictures.
Well, you see, I've read the 90s and the 70s.
I don't know. There could be some 70s stuff that looks good. What about the well, we haven't brought back 80s hairspray hairstyles yet, so that's a plus. That's a plus. Also, because of the hairspray effect on the environment is not great.
Yeah, but we tend to forget the bullshit, and so it's like having kids. You forget, like moms forget the pain of childbirth,
and then they have more.
We're gonna have more babies, and then you just forget the you know. But it's like my parents, the nostalgia of the 50s and the 60s. You just forget the bullshit of that time, like the racism that was rampant, the Vietnam War, and all that kind of stuff that was going on. And so you want to return to that because also you just feel like things are moving too quickly.
Yeah. But also in your youth, you're not also aware of like some of that other larger bullshit in your youth. You're not aware of things, you know.
But my parents in the 60s at least were aware of it. And so
sorry, my mom in chat says when I was 5, I watched Lassie, and I remember watching Lassie as a child as well.
Lassie.
I liked watching Lassie.
On whatever the version of TV Land was at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the reruns.
Yeah. And then I go, oh God, like the the younger gen, I think they're called are they called Zoomers? Zennials, Zoomers. I've heard Zoomers.
For who?
Gen Z. Do they know Lassie?
They're gonna hate that.
Like they don't know Lassie.
Because that's so close to Boomers. Zoomers and
I've
boomers.
heard Zoomers, so I don't know if Zoomers is a thing or if it's or what it is. But it's like, oh God, you don't know Lassie? You know, the newer generations don't know Lucille Ball and her comedic fucking genius that she was. Zoomers or Gen Z, I love it. I love it.
As much as I
take that from a geriatric millennial, aka elder millennial.
No, geriatric.
I mean, at this rate, with how my sciatic nerve is treating me, I might as well be. Give me a walker. I remember I would play. My grandma had a walker, and I would play ice cream shop in her walker. So her walker would be my ice cream shop.
But she couldn't come to you because you had a walker.
Well, I never thought about that. Oh no. Oh my God.
Ice cream.
My sister says that she heard there are some Gen Z who don't know who Justin Timberlake is. And Zoomer might stick because of school via Zoom during COVID. I'm sorry. There are Zoomers who don't know who JT is?
He's
Well, they
not
do
that
now.
far.
They do now. And they're like, who the fuck is this
Why
old
are
boy
we worried
band
about
guy?
him? Because he got busted for DUI,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So why are we worried about
For
him?
apparently having one drink, which one bartender said was all alcohol, but whatever.
Wow.
I mean, it's fine. That's wild, not knowing who.
I mean, you
Like
can
is
have
to me.
one drink and have it just be like
Rock
Everclear,
you,
and
yeah.
it'll
Just have it just totally rock you and
yeah,
not.
and you don't know if he ate that day.
Yeah, yeah.
So was he
that
not
was
getting
a
enough
shock
water?
because you think of him as being more of one of the like goody two shoes ones in a sense of like,
Yeah, wasn't he like
not
Britney Spears?
Yeah, him and Britney Spears had a thing. I guess in Britney Spears. Why are we? This is a very off topic.
Said it was nostalgic.
Hangover, but I guess
Nostalgic
in Britney Spears's which Britney Spears became famous with "Hit Me Baby One More Time" when I was in middle school. But I guess they like she had gotten pregnant and then like had an abortion from him.
Oh wow!
And everything. So that's interesting.
Wow.
Thinking about, but I mean, as an adult now, looking back on Britney Spears, it's like, oh yeah, of course she went batshit. Of course she lost her mind.
Yeah, well,
she was not taken care of mentally or any shape or form.
Most of these child actors, they can't handle the fame, and then when the fame dries up because they're not a child actor anymore, they can't handle that.
Well, they're exposed to this whole culture of underground that's not appropriate for children to be exposed to.
Parents see them as a cash cow, or at least a lot of parents do, and so.
Yeah, they're totally. It's amazing the few child stars that have like come out like just totally like okay and like have been, but at least like I mean like Drew Barrymore, she had a huge issue with like drugs and everything, and she's obviously gotten past it and been able to become successful on her own.
Elijah Wood seems like he's turned out
Elijah
okay.
Wood, he seemed to avoid all that bullshit and had like a good compass. Moral compass or whatever that was instilled in him, or at least people around him that helped him not.
Yeah, like River Phoenix died. Will Wheaton had a rough go.
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, shit out of his control. But Will Wheaton turned out okay. Johnny Depp is a clusterfuck. Johnny
Depp is. Oh God, he's problematic, but also Johnny Depp, so it's hard to. Federico said his new colleague is 20 years old, half his age. Yeah, I mean, people in the 20s, they need jobs. They're coming into the. I mean, when I started in Planetarium, I was. God, what year was that? 2010.
You were 28.
In 2010?
No, 2010. No, you were 25. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, 2010 is 25.
Yeah, I was 25 when I started in Planetarium. And just with... It's weird thinking back when you're in your mid to late 20s, because you think at that point, okay, I'm grown up and adult enough. But then I think once I hit my 30s, I was like, oh God, now I'm adult and grown up enough. Well, but now in my late 30s, I'm like, oh God, now I'm adult and grown up enough.
Well, when you're 25, you just at that point understand yourself.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think in your late 20s, that's when you kind of start to figure yourself out. In your early 20s, you're still a child.
You're not even thinking about being an adult at that point. You have just figured out who you are. And then you can start thinking about just the whole idea
our
of being
society.
an adult.
This is God. What a hangover. Okay, so our society. So I, as a female, as a woman, in our society, and this is American society for those of you that are American, Federico, or a woman, but like it was ingrained in me. Okay, by 25. I need to be married and have like a child.
At least one kid.
Yeah, at least, yeah. It was like, okay, that is the plan. you know, and like I gotta adhere to that plan, which I did
College
part
is
of
inevitable.
that. I did part of that getting married a little bit too early, but also part of me is happy I did, even though it didn't work out. Part of me is happy that I did because at least my grandpa could be like a part of that wedding and everything. So I look back and go, oh, okay, so Papa got to be a part of it. Even though it would be best if he was a part of our wedding because, oh God, he would have loved you. Oh, can you imagine Katie and my mom, Papa would love Mike. Anyway, this Mike. Anyway, but oh God, way too young. When I think back on
it was like, all right. So I was talking to my parents today, because I'm not going to talk to them enough in 10 days, but or 11 days, whatever it is. But we're talking about my sister, and and I brought up that it's just it's idiotic to go to any 18-year-old and go, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?
Oh my God.
You haven't figured out who you are.
I had no clue.
There's a reason why you have so many people switch majors.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, I think I'll do this, but then like, oh.
It's because they get a couple years into it and they're like,
he
no,
would
I don't want to do it.
Time.
But you know, I think colleges also bank on that, literally and figuratively, because they know that these kids are going to change their majors, and it just means more money for them. And it's just dumb to ask an 18-year-old.
I mean, there's some that definitely know what they're
my
going to do.
mom knew exactly what she was going to do, and she did it. My dad completely changed careers at the age of 36.
Yeah.
And he told me that age.
Yeah, I mean, I had no clue.
You know, so I think, yeah, get out of high school, take a gap year or two.
Okay, so just a couple things in chat. So Ron says, sounds like growing up in Mormon land, except the marriage age expectations much. Yeah, Mormons being married at like 18 when it's legal, and I'm sure they would prefer even younger, but they got to follow federal guidelines on the legal age of marriage. That's insane. And then Federico says, here, as you may know, which we do not, Federico, know anything about Italian culture other than pasta. Here in Italy, pizza
volcanoes,
Napoleonic
Romans.
Pizza. Yeah. Here in Italy, the normal age for leaving the parents' house is 30-something. At least 30-something. Leaving the parents' house is at least 30-something in the past 40 years. That is amazing.
Federico just left his parents 10 years ago?
Well, I don't know about Federico, but he's just saying that that's the cultural norm. Which would, I mean, yeah, because when you're 18, it's like as soon as, here in America, it's like as soon as 18, it's like, oh, if you're an adult, you can go find a war, get the fuck out, figure your life out, get a job, go to college or whatever, you know, get your thing. And it's like, as an 18-year-old, you don't know what the fuck is happening. And even in your like mid-20s, you're like, what's happening? Like for example, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my skills were really. I didn't have any kind of like, you know, any kind of like mentors or guidance in that kind of realm. And so that's why I kind of stagnated a bit and was like just kind of like being shit at community college and didn't go into real college because I didn't want to take the SATs and didn't know what to do. And then it wasn't until where I was in a community college and was like, oh, maybe I can become like a teacher. And I really I had some affirmation by some teachers that I was like, oh, okay, here's a skill I am good at, kind of thing. But then I didn't know anything about the planetarium world until I got a job in the planetarium in my pursuit of a degree in education, where then I was like, oh shit, this is fun. This is what I love. Talking about space all day to just random people. And it was like, oh yeah, okay. And so that is what I then was like, oh, okay, I can do this shit.
Yeah.
And totally then didn't even do what my degree was for, because I then stayed within the planetarium field. Right. And that was in my late 20s by that point, where I was like, okay.
Oh, but see, I can relate to that, though.
You know?
All right, so I get a job in a planetarium, Gibbs Planetarium, which I'll show you where that is in 2 weeks. And then that's in Columbia, South Carolina. And then all right, so go get a degree in physics, and you're like, okay, I need to take a year off just because of this mathematics that I had to endure.
The math got too much to you. The math wore you down.
Okay, but where I went to school, they did have basically math for physicists, and it was the math that you were going to use. So the physics department worked with the math department and offered this class where this is the math you're going to see your senior year of college and of physics degree. Well, I was just at the right time where they canceled that class, and so they canceled the class.
Oh God, I hate it when fucking.
So what ended up happening was the physics department said you still have to take this class; it no longer exists. But what we're going to do is we are going to create that class, so it's now going to be a physics offered class. And I had to take that class at the exact same time that I am seeing all this shit in quantum physics and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was a nightmare of a year. It was an exhausting year because you didn't have the mathematics to be able to do the class that you are required to take to graduate. And it was a rough year. So the idea was, I'm going to take a year off and then just relax a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to school. And at that point, I had decided that I wanted to go into high energy physics. And so basically work at a CERN or, Fermi Lab and that type of thing.
A collider.
Yeah, a collider somewhere. I wanted to run shit together. I want
to collide really small shit
basically
together.
Make car wrecks out of protons and stuff. But I was like, okay, so I enjoyed working at a planetarium. I want to get that job. I want to be in a planetarium. So I looked locally, and locally was Roper Mountain, which was in Greenville, South Carolina, which was literally just 30 minutes away. So it wasn't far, but they weren't hiring or anything. And so
it is a niche market.
So the guy that was there, Rick, is now in Twin Falls in Idaho.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yep.
Oh shit. Okay.
Which I do remind him of this every once in a
while.
That's
funny. Oh wow.
So that didn't work out,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I'd been to Phoenix. I went to Phoenix in the wintertime.
Well,
and
that's a misleading time to go to Phoenix.
It skews how you see it. And so I call up Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, and I was like, do you guys have a planetarium? And they're like, no, but we're building one. Here's the information, contact information. And I called up, and I got a job there. And, I have been waiting to go back to grad school for high energy physics now since 1997. December of 1996, actually. Well, December of 97 since I gave it a year. But, it's, and I haven't gone back. There is a certain magic that is being in a round room with a curved ceiling, a captive audience, and being able to just talk about astronomy. Mm-hmm. Because everybody loves astronomy. Everybody looks at the sky and
does everybody love astronomy?
I think they do.
You even say that with
yeah, I even like super religious people that we can't relate to. Mm-hmm. They make a connection to the universe. And is it boring you?
No, it's the beer.
So they connect to the universe in a way that's different than I connect to the universe, mm-hmm. but we still connect to the same things that are up there, and so we all have that connection, and we just interpret things a little bit differently, mm-hmm. I see it as I don't know how the universe playing out, whatever, just an amazing thing about the universe, and I see it as an invisible skydiving.
Invisible sky
That
daddy.
made it happen.
I wonder what they make of the Dorito chip of the sky. Check out our main episode of High in the Sky for July 2024, where we talk about the Dorito chip of the sky, aka Capricornus, not Copernicus. Capricornus.
Well, I'm sure that there is some sort of connection that they will make, and how, like, God made an orderly universe, ignoring the fact that the Earth wobbles, and but still, even that wobble, it has a certain orderness to it, right? Every 26,000 years, whatever it is. Are we
no, I'm reading Ron's comment because our other chat screen is not working, so we have to rely on what's being shown,
which I can't even
in
see
the screen.
All,
so then I have to look at our actually YouTube studio one to see Ron's full comment. Ron says, catching up, I have projects at Kitt Peak National Observatory, and he's making a planetarium show about the Gemini International Observatory office. Is in Tucson, and it's pretty hot. So, yeah.
Okay.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Ron, it's pretty cool. I did when I was working in the planetarium at a place that shall be named, not named, well, should be unnamed. I was lucky.
We don't say his name.
Yes.
It's Voldemort.
It's Voldemort. I was lucky enough to get this sort of professional development grant thing that allowed me to take an astrophotography seminar at Kitt Peak University, Kitt Peak Observatory. So I got to spend a weekend at Kitt Peak, which we had gone separately for a Doug trip, but to just our user group conference trip, I believe. But I got to spend a weekend
up. Doug conference?
Yeah, because
that's right. It was a Doug conference.
I was like, all the norms were there. But all the norms. But I got to spend a week up at Kitt Peak, or a weekend up at Kitt Peak Observatory, where they did a workshop on astrophotography.
Notes and stuff, don't you?
Somewhere, yeah. It was really cool, and it's a really cool observatory to check out, and the fact that they offer kind of a public sort of where the public can go up there and get tours and everything, and see the telescopes, or you can actually do a public kind of a night session where you can either spend the night or you get a nighttime viewing through one of the telescopes. But it's an active astronomy research observatory. So you have scientists that book time on these telescopes, and they have dormitories, and they spend X amount of time where they're up at night, pointing these telescopes at various places in the universe and gathering that data.
Way of driving down the mountain.
Yeah, because you have to drive down the mountain with your lights off, because you can't have your lights on.
You do follow. There is a lead car that you follow.
Yeah.
And they will tell you when you can turn your lights back on.
Yeah.
But did they have their park lights on? There was a way that we had to follow them. But so we had to make sure. Oh, but then coming back also. Going back to Phoenix,
that was for Doug. That was for the Doug thing, because we got pulled over. And then two people who were from out of the country didn't have their freaking passports with them, dumbs.
They let us go,
they let us go mainly because we're white. Anyway. Yeah, they let us go, but they didn't have their passports with them. It might have been the Germans. It might have been the Germans. I don't know if one of New Zealander was involved.
We got pulled over by border. This is
in the middle of the night, or it was late at night,
and 100 miles from the border. We were not at the border.
Yeah,
and so,
but I think because we were in vans, so it probably looked like
Yeah, so we got pulled over. They want to know basically.
And we're like, no, we're just coming back from Kitt Peak.
Yeah, and luckily they the two Germans that were in the van, they just let go because they were German. But
yeah, they were like, okay, they're not smuggling people over from Mexico or
yeah,
whatever,
they're looking for
they're looking for
people from
specific.
South
They're
Dakota.
profiling is what they're doing. They're profiling, but no one, everybody driving had an ID and was like an American. I know I have like I have a wisp, a hair wisp there. But yeah, if you're ever in the States, yeah, Kids Peak Observatory is a fantastic place to check out. Ron says in chat that he's so glad that he gets to work with NORLab and KPNO, and he's been able to visit that one several times, and it's always a beautiful experience. Yeah.
And Kit Peak is not in Tucson, by the way.
No, it's outside of Tucson. It's technically, is it on the reservation property, Ron? Is it in Toronto?
I mean, it's like an hour. It's not close. It's not like immediately right there. You have to go up into the mountain.
Yeah, and that is the thing with observatories, is you'll notice that most astronomical research observatories, they're going to be in usually high altitudes, but also B, cold locations, because you want the least amount of atmospheric interference as possible. You know, so if you look at like Mauna Kea in Hawaii, or in Kit Peak Observatory, the Atacama Desert, these are locations where that you don't have a lot of heat. So what happens is that the hot air rises, right? And so that causes the atmosphere to cause this waviness in the atmosphere, this turbulence, and that can interfere with astronomical observations. So you want to have a very dry, cold, high location. You want to have the least atmospheric interference as possible to get the best data on what you're observing.
Right,
and what you're observing is outside of the universe, or outside of the planet.
But what's really
a lot of times outside of the galaxy.
What's really cool, though, is you can shoot a laser up into the sky, and that laser can measure the disturbance of the atmosphere. And what it does is you will warp the mirror in real time to get it's called adaptive optics, and you will get a clear view,
image.
a clear image,
accounting for that atmospheric
disturbance. And so you'll see some pictures of observatories where you see the observatory and you see a laser that shoots out of it, and that laser is measuring the atmosphere. And the atmosphere, that measurement goes into a computer in real time.
So it can change and adjust
things. The mirror itself has these little motor kind of things attached to it, and they warp that mirror in real time to make it a clearer image. And technology is an amazing thing. It's going to kill us, but it's an amazing thing. Things we'll learn before it kills us.
So Ron confirms it's Kit Peak is 90 minutes outside of Tucson on Tohono O'odham Nation property. So it is on reservation property. And they're actually working on the nighttime drive down policy for visitors, because they've had some incidents with people bumping into the guardrails on their way down. I mean, it's dark, and it's supposed to be dark. You don't want a lot of light pollution. That's why you're outside of city limits. You're out there in the middle of nowhere, so to speak, because you don't want that light pollution to interfere.
But you also don't want those headlights shining into telescopes. So, yeah, that was a great visit. Yeah,
that was a fun trip for both of the times that I went, for Doug and for that little seminar I got to go to.
Ron should host a conference, and we just all descend upon his place, and then he takes us up on the mountain.
There you go, Ron. But yeah, it's definitely worth, I would say, and we did briefly mention this in the main show, of like your local astronomy club and any star parties that they host, like checking out. And it's not necessarily something, I don't think that you necessarily have to, for a lot of these, have to like camp at or anything. You can go and then leave. There is a huge one here in Oregon. The Oregon Star Party. Right? It's July. It's in the Ochoa National Park. It is huge. There's like apparently hundreds of people that attend it. And it is like, kind of like a camping overnight kind of situation, or it's a multiple day star party actually. But it's huge, and there's a lot of different telescopes that you can look through.
July 30th through August 4th.
Okay, July 30th through August 4th. It's I mean, it's kind of expensive to register for and to go. So this is like really if you want to like camp out in the Oregon desert kind of thing, but it's huge. But I mean, like local astronomy clubs usually have like every, like on a weekend per month or multiple weekends per month, where they have a designated site that they then will have their members bring out their telescopes, or what have you, and are just out there for the evening, looking at whatever there is to look at out there. And you can come and check it out and stay and camp where they are, or you go for like a few hours in the evening and then you go home. But it's a good way to kind of just look for yourself and see the universe through your own eyes, rather than just looking at images online of what's out there. And it's fun.
I'm scared to find out how much it costs now.
It was like $100 something, or I should tell you how much it costs, but and it includes, like, depending on how many days you're going, like if you want to include meals or something, it's like
pictures, ice, photos.
Yeah. There's no showers. So it's a very camping heavy star party, the Oregon one, and the Ochoa National Forest.
But it would be fun.
But like the Eugene Astronomical Society here in Oregon, like they're having one actually this July 5th or something, at like, it's just like a park or whatever, which I guess is not doing it anymore, and so they're having kind of like a final hurrah at it.
In that one park?
Yeah, but like for when we were at our Voldemort place that we worked at, we would go take the telescopes out to a star party at Alamo Lake State Park in Arizona, which I don't know if they're still doing it. I would assume they are, but I don't know for sure. You can look it up. But we would take this telescopes out there for an evening. We would camp out there for the night. And there would be a ton of people that would come and look through the telescopes, and people would be amazed. They would come look through the telescope, and we tell them what they were looking at, and we get a lot of oohs and ahs and wows, and tell them more about what they were seeing. I mean, there were some people that were even members of our Voldemort institution that were like, "Oh, I didn't even know there was a planetarium there," which then we just had a shot through the heart, and we're like, "Oh, great." But a lot of kids and families that were just like ooh and ahs, and we would even go take the telescopes out to some like it was Wild Horse Ranch and Casino out in Tucson. Wild Horse Pass Casino and Ranch or whatever out in Tucson. They had like not in Tucson, it was in Southern Phoenix.
A little south of Phoenix.
And we would just be out with our telescope next to the pool area and just looking at whatever's out there. And so guests of the hotel would just come over and look through the telescope, or they, in their swimsuits, and just walk over, and we'd talk about it, and they would be amazed.
So
and
many
it was
people
just
from
like,
Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of people from Chicago.
Interesting. And it was just really fun to kind of like share that with other random people. We also got a free, really good dinner out of it. Yeah, that was our payment for coming out there with telescopes. Was we were just like, you don't have to pay anything for the telescopes. We just get free food. I don't know if our Voldemort institution ever knew anything about that.
Nope.
It was just our little secret, like, hey, we'll do this.
Voldemort.
Hey, we did this for free, but we got free food out of it.
Yes.
Because they had really good food.
Yeah, but there were also like there were times where like I wish I could remember his name, but
of the Tonoho O'odham tribe, he came out and would do star talks on the Native American constellations.
Yeah, but that was he would come to science to the Voldemort Institution, but then when we were there with the telescopes. on occasion, there were a couple occasions.
Yeah,
where,
but sometimes there were a couple that he came out and he talked about the
but
Native
like
American.
we would do a thing where it was, I would give a talk about something, and then Tim Terry was his name. He would give a talk about how they saw the same thing. So
yeah. It's and you know that is really one of the like kind of the facets of astronomy is that there's like astronomy, like for instance with the Crab Nebula, which is supernova remnant, and the supernova itself was seen in 1054 BC.
It was 80.
ADC. So CE. And the supernova was seen. Beautiful nebula, Google the images. But then astronomers look at historical records, and you can find records in China, but then also the Anasazi tribe, they had recorded this burst of light in the sky that corresponds to the exact dates of the Crab Nebula and corresponds to when the Chinese recorded it as well. And so they could use that and be like, oh, they both witnessed this same event, and this is this nebula. It's
the handprint nebula. It's the handprint image. So it's got a handprint, the star, and then the moon in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they can use these records then to confirm essentially like, hey, this is when this happened, and we have the evidence, the written evidence of these both completely opposite civilizations seeing it at the exact same time, which is really cool. Are you pulling it up? Yeah, that looks, I guess.
Picture right there. Can't really, but there's the hand. Oh. The handprint is. Oh,
jeez.
The handprint is over there, the moon, and then the
exploding star.
The exploding star.
So a lot of times that astronomers can use historical records like these to then figure out what something was and when it happened, and it's these corresponding details that then are instrumental in that process. I don't know, we don't have a drink rule for cat noises, but if you hear our cat, that Winter is, wait, you were sleeping this whole time. We've been here this whole time, Mitts. I call him Mitts, or Kitten Mittens, from a Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode, but that's his nickname, is Mitts or Mittens. Anyway, cool. We've had a lot of random discussion in this hangover from the nostalgia of our old television shows, and somehow ended up talking about
we got
telescopes and space stuff at some point. Yeah. Anyway, it's been fun.
July 21st.
Yeah, we will be back at you on
July 21st.
July 20. I know. I'm just getting a breath. July 21st, which we will do. I would say we should probably not do a high in the sky. We should probably do an actual topic of something, depending on if Brandon is with us, because there were some topics that we are reserving for his presence. That he gets excited about. He should be with us more now, though, because he'll have less on assignments that he has to do. But regardless, we'll be back on July 21st. Of course, follow us on all the things at Drinking Cosmos on Twitter, and Cosmos with Cosmos everywhere else. Of course, The Hangover can only be found on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. It's been fun. Now watch me as I lean forward to end the stream.